watching.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from the Deep Dive Corn Productions Deep Dive TV podcast with my co-host Stacie. We got honorary special co-host Brian Greene from QuantumLeapAlsPlace.com, whose site is celebrating 25 years. So congratulations on that. We are here talking about the Quantum Leap trilogy with special guest Deborah Pratt. Deborah Pratt, welcome back to the channel.
Anytime, loving it. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Hey,
We're
thanks
doing well. Thank
so
you.
much for joining us today and coming back to talk with us again. Trilogy is my favorite Quantum Leap episode, so I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah, we spent about 4 hours discussing the trilogy episodes.
Four hours over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So this is our week number 4 now, sharing trilogy thoughts with our audience.
And this time the thoughts are yours, Deborah. So I'm actually kind of curious about your inspiration for the story of the trilogy.
The inspiration was that I wanted to do a trilogy. I wanted to do a story where Sam kept leaping into the same family. And why was he leaping into that? And it goes back to, he didn't know if he and his wife had gotten back together based on the things that Al had done in the past. He only finds that out much later, but he had seemed so alone, and I wanted him to feel family is the main reason. And I wanted him to feel love. And I had all these women that were writing to say, when's Sam going to get a girlfriend? So it was kind of hard when you're there for 3 days, and that's about it. So I came up with the idea that he would leap 3 times into this same woman's life. Once as a child, as her father, then secondly, as her lover and husband to be, and then finally as her attorney to save her life. And each time he had to save her life. And I think my favorite part out of it was that he conceived a child in the second episode, Sammy Jo Fuller, and that I set up, because I knew it would take forever, that in the future, Sammy Jo was a grown-up and she was working with Al to bring him home. And the fact that he learned that at the end of that episode, I think added extra hope for the audience, for Sam, to say, yes, we're thinking of this. We're thinking of how to bring him home. So that's really where it came from. And then the breakdown of the episodes, which is to save the little girl and to save his wife to be, and then to save her as an adult and then have that through line with, and I don't have my Matt Dale book, so
she'll lend you a copy.
I don't have mine here. It's upstairs.
I'm trying to think of all the actors that were in that show that were so incredibly good. The night of the fire, when his wife, who had gone insane, and then her responsibility. I mean, it was really a tapestry of story writing for me, in the sense that each of those characters I had to carry through 3 episodes and evolve them as they went, from him as a father, him as with the story of the young girl who disappears and they don't know where she is, to be able to tell that story, what happened to his wife when she had a nervous breakdown, what happened to his and to the neighbor whose child it was that went missing. Mm-hmm. And the hope that because of Al and the future, they could find her. And so that was a delicate balance of storytelling. And then by the time we got to the trial, I had always wanted to write a trial. And I had written the one, So Help Me God, which I thought was a really good episode.
It was. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But I just felt the need to be back in the courtroom and to have Scott, who is so versatile, take on a jury again. But I mean, I think that I'm sure I was influenced by, the Bad Seed.
Mhm.
You've ever seen that
Yeah.
film or read the play or seen the play or read the book, of a young girl who was accused of a crime, but she actually did commit the crime. But that whole thing of, do you believe children? Are they liars? And according to, gosh, I can't remember anybody's name. The young girl's name, her mother was sure that she was the murderer. And the twist of it being that it was the mother accidentally, but she
Lita
didn't.
Hader,
And then the father,
right?
and then the father was the bigger twist to cover it up. And she just,
Yeah. We ended up talking about that quite a bit. Like,
oh yeah, what came out?
well, there's like that one line where it's basically like you reveal the fact that basically Clayton Fuller covered this up, and if he hadn't done that, a whole lot of tragedy might have been avoided. Abigail's life might have been better. Lita Ader might still be alive. Bart might even still be alive because you can make the argument that he wouldn't have had the heart condition that he had that caused his death if his daughter didn't go missing without any explanation whatsoever. So yeah, it was like one line towards the end of the episode that kind of recontextualizes everything.
But that's the great, that's the kind of payoff that I think, and I'm pretty sure, and I go to you to talk about this. I'm pretty sure that I left enough seeds so that it didn't just come out of nowhere.
Mhm.
That was really important to me, so that if you went back through it, you could really see where there were hints to what it could have been, what could have happened, or how it could have happened. And I guess I think of now in after effect, I don't think I thought of it then because I don't think the movie was out, but the Bruce Willis movie Sixth Sense, where you did not know until the very end that he was dead the whole time.
I think that was 99.
Say again?
I think Sixth Sense was 99.
99, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did it first. Thanks. M.
Yeah,
Night.
I think that's, one of the things that's so great about this story is having, 3 different time periods, being able to revisit, is you do have all these little breadcrumbs throughout every episode, but you don't really know anything until you get to the end and it all fits together. And then you can go back and be like, oh, wow, like that makes so much sense. And it's inevitable, but at the same time, it wasn't obvious, it's done really beautifully well.
I had a lot of help. I had great actors. I had wonderful directors. I had, the crew creating those 3 periods. And we actually got to shoot it pretty much all on the lot, which is what was so great about the show. And I think we went to Warner Brothers to do the burn of the house when they get out of the house through the window. And watching them shoot that was, terrifying with this young girl and fire and all. And having her play her younger self and then her self as Sam's daughter,
Mhm.
I thought was interesting choice. Interesting, that's a cheat word, but I thought it was a good choice to again let you feel that. And I think we wigged her for Sammy Jo,
Oh, really?
as I remember. So that was the big difference in who she was. And she was a terrific actress. Do we know what happened to her?
She's not acting any longer,
Yeah.
Kimberly Cullum.
Yeah, she stopped acting after a while.
She's been off the radar for a number of years now. So
Oh no, did I do that?
no,
she continued acting for
a little while,
Yeah.
like through her teen years, I think. And I know we talked about all of that when we covered the first part of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great. I love her, and she was
quite fine.
She did a great job pulling off. These are 2 different characters.
Yeah.
Were all 3 parts filmed concurrently, or were they three totally separate productions?
Well, they were three separate productions, but in order for us to do them, I had to have all three written. So the scripts were there. Usually you get a script at the beginning of the shoot, at beginning of prep, and you shoot that show. And then the next one you hope comes in on time. I was a pretty good taskmaster of getting scripts in, except for one person, who shall go unnamed, was always.
I gotta throw him under the bus.
Not throwing him under the bus, but always great scripts. And so it was important for me to finish all three scripts in the trilogy. So I knew what I needed, and I think what's wonderful about being a writer producer is that from the moment you start casting, from the moment you start hearing your words spoken, you really can get a sense of the story that you want to tell. And then when somebody walks in, that just nails it, that brings it to life. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. I can't think of her name. Abigail, grown-up Abigail.
Laura Harden.
Oh, yeah, Laura Harden, thank you. Who is an amazing actress, but she brought so much in that audition. I knew she was the one from the moment she ended the scene. Her emotional levels, her ability to listen, the character that she really developed into, and she developed the character into. I mean, I feel like it was on the page, but she just took it to a whole nother level. So yes, for that one, we needed to know where we were going from the very beginning. So until all three scripts were done, I wasn't showing them to anybody. But when they came out, everybody got it right away. And we got really behind it and got really excited about it. And the difference, from television then and television now was we really had the time. We had those full, it wasn't 22 minutes of commercials, which is what television is now. So when a guest star came on the show, there was a star of the show, just like everybody else. And we did not, rarely did we come into the present.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have headquarters. We didn't have those dollars at the time. But rarely did we come into the present. So the whole idea from the creation of the show was, we want the audience to feel like they're trapped in the past too. So they don't really know what is going on, and then have Al be the voice of the present. And I think in the trilogy, but in every episode, it was really important to tell the story and then have Al represent every audience member who was watching the show, especially if you, like Al, had lived that part, had been, in the segregated South, had marched with Martin Luther King, had been in the 60s when women were, trying to find their way into the workforce and suddenly had no voice, even though they were in the room. They were still supposed to go get coffee. What did that feel like? And the idea of walking in someone else's shoes and feeling that, I personally think we need more of, because we would be much more empathetic to each other if that could happen. Or at least you watched it happen and you thought, what if I was? And I'm sure I've told you guys this, but Harriet found the first chat room. This was in 1990 or 1989. Remember chat rooms?
Yes.
So we found a Quantum Leap every night after the show. We could go into the chat room and hear people do water cooler talk. Did you see the show tonight? You know what I liked about it? And for a long time, we just wanted to let eavesdrop, basically. We wanted to eavesdrop, which we did, to see what they liked and to write more to the stories they wanted to hear, or the experiences they had were inspirational. to the writer's room. And it was just
sorry. I'm curious how involved how much did you work with James Whitmore Jr. to bring your vision to the screen? Like how often were you talking to him during the course of the trilogy?
I mean, it was my show. So the rule was, when it's your show, you're on the set. And if there are any questions or if there's anything it needs a rewrite, the scene isn't working, you're right there and you can do it. It was challenging because I was also, producing on the show, but it was my show and it was really important. And James was really intuitive. He got the script from the prep that we were talking about. But I got to work with Bernie. I got to work with Jean-Pierre on what the costumes represented and what the colors represented, what the scenery represented, why it was important for certain things to happen so that when they were in the house and it was burning and the window, they had to break out through the window. I said, we need that to have a heightened tension to it so that all of us feel like we're trapped in that fire. We're trapped in that room and we've got this child and we have to make the choice to save her life. And I think he captured that. He's a great director. We had great directors on the show and I'm lucky.
Yeah, that was a fantastic scene. Did they use fire wands and stuff like that for?
Yeah, we didn't have CGI like that back then,
right?
So it all had to be practical, and our stunt coordinator Jeff. No, that's the new stunt coordinator. Diamond Farnsworth. He's so incredibly careful. And, but we were in a house on the back lot that had been built, probably in the 50s, I think, because it was the house of either, oh my gosh.
Was it Desperate Housewives?
Well, they ended up using it, but before that,
that's right.
I think it was, oh my gosh, like not Leave It to Beaver. I think it was Leave It to Beaver's house.
Oh, wow.
That's
cool.
And now I want to go back and find out. Look, that's what I would look up. And
it's probably in there somewhere.
But it was an old house. It had been built for that show. So by the time we did it, it was at least 30, 40 years old, sitting on the back lot. And basically what Universal does, if it's not being used, it just sits there and rots. And then somebody comes in and says, oh, I want this house. And then you at the production company have to bring it up to code and fix it up and then decorate it. So I thought that was, and I think on the new Quantum Leap, we were shooting in the Western town, which is 100 years old. And we did a fire scene and I was like sweating bullets. I said, this barn is 100 years old. So whatever you have to do, but Jeff was terrific on that. So yeah, I think I think I did have a big hand, not just in the words, but also in the story. And I think Richard was really caring about that. In the history of Hollywood, writers are usually, nobody works until the writer writes. Nobody. And as soon as they turn in that script, everybody says, oh, it's mine. And they don't want the writer to come around because they know that's the creative force that made it into reality. And now you get to put your juju on it. But it shouldn't take you away from that person. And a lot of times directors will mess up because they'll feel the scene is not right. And they will try to rewrite it themselves, but they're not really writers, kind of thing. Yeah. So
one thing I'm curious about is when Trilogy first aired, part 1 was 1 week, then parts 2 and 3 aired together in movie format. Was that always the plan, or how did that come to be? It feels like a weird decision to me.
It was a network decision. It was
I
not my
figured.
fault at all. It was actually the studio. I take it back. It was a studio decision. But the network was, they went with it. And I kept saying, no, 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 you want people to think about this. You want them to want to come back. I said, no, we're going to do it all at once. And I don't remember the exact reason why they felt it needed to be done all at once. It was just, they did. But they moved us, 6 times in 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
And then said, where's your audience? And I went, on Tuesday night, where they're looking for us. What are you talking about? Or Wednesday or Friday,
Not too much different from how NBC treated the new Quantum Leap, for sure, the revival. But we probably shouldn't go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kept saying to them, you know what? This show works best at 8 o'clock. It's an 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at the latest. It's a family show.
Mhm.
And when grandparents and parents and kids sit down and watch it together, you don't have anything else on the air like that. That's how people used to watch TV when it was so new. Everybody sat down in front of the TV. And I wanted to bring that back. Because I think it is an experience. It's like going to the movies, with your friends and your family. You got to all go at once. But then afterwards, you talk about it.
And that's how we watched Quantum Leap. We were kids.
Yeah.
And I think I've pinpointed the fact that one of the reasons why Trilogy has always stood with me is Kimberly Cullum. Love her. I'm about the same age as her. That's how old I was when I was watching this, so that's the part that was like relatable to me.
Do you remember how you felt about her situation?
I can't say I remember exactly. This whole series of episodes just always stuck with me. Just the creepiness level of it in a good way. Like it's perfect.
It was a creep level. That's true.
Perfectly creepy. Yeah, I don't remember how anything made me feel or anything like that at this point. It's been a long time, but
I do remember how I felt when Sam was talking to Laura, Abigail's mother, and he took off the veil in the last episode of the trilogy, and we see how burned she is, though I didn't understand at the time exactly what happened to her, but being really creeped out by that, and I do remember that as a kid.
Me too. And then Meg Foster has those eyes.
She was at the fire. Say again?
Meg Foster has those eyes that just pierce.
It's like white blue.
Perfect. Yeah.
White blue. But the fact that she was there the night that the fire happened,
which went over Dave's head
for 30-something years.
I had to explain this to him during the podcast because he missed that entirely.
See, I thought there was some kind of like weird connection Sam was having to his host, which was done a lot in the trilogy. I did not understand that she was actually there.
That's how she got burned.
Yeah.
Now the question goes to, did she set the fire?
I
think
Rita Eder and Laura.
I think they're both at fault.
Yeah.
I have to say they had a struggle that they shouldn't have had, and we're holding a gas lantern or oil lantern, and that's a bad idea. I would blame both of them, I think.
So when you wrote that, what was your thought on that then?
Truthfully, as I remember, it was, it was an accident that happened, but Meg was trying to save her daughter because this woman was trying to kill her, basically. So as a mother, she was instigating it so that this would stop, never really putting in her head that it would kill anybody else. She was trying to save her daughter. She was after that woman. So that was a woman going to save it in the back of my mind. But I think I also wrote it so that it could be another way. And did Sam being there rather than her father make things happen differently? Because I can't remember. Did her
That was my exact argument in trilogy when we were talking about the trilogy, that Sam actually changed history to cause the fire. Because all right, so the two scenes that lead to that, the picnic scene where he's talking to his daughter, that same conversation that Lita Ader overhears would not have happened the same way, because Sam is fishing for details that Clayton already has, so he wouldn't have needed that information. The only reason that Laura was at the fire is because Sam and Al were talking in front of her about her daughter burning to death in a fire. That's the only reason that she was there. So yeah, I think Sam changed history to make that happen. And that's something probably else happened in the original timeline.
I like it. Okay, you're in the writer's room. That's it.
All right, awesome.
Oh, you were talking about Meg Foster. She was perfect in this role. Was this role like written for her?
It wasn't, we never knew who we were going to get. It wasn't like, it wasn't until the show was on maybe 4 years that people really wanted to be in the show. Maybe year 3, people were really pushing to be in the show. But we broke some really big people. Oh my God, I'm so bad at names now.
Jennifer Aniston
for sure. And oh my gosh, what's her name that was in Superman?
Terry Hatcher.
Oh yeah.
No, Terry Hatcher, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you a very funny story. So we did a show about Sam leapt into a stuntman, and I don't remember exactly what the plot was, but I'm sitting there and this actor walks in and he's so arrogant and he's really handsome, and I'm sitting and I'm watching, and he gives a really good audition, and everybody goes, we have to hire him. We have to hire him. He's got this big movie coming out called Thelma and Louise. And I went, he doesn't want to be here. Did you not pick that up? He was doing that because his agent sent him in. And they said, yeah, but he's going to be a really big star. And I went, yeah, but he'll make us all miserable. No, don't hire Brad Pitt. Don't hire him. I regret that.
Wow.
Oh well.
But how was I to know? But he was so good. He's such a diverse actor. His comedy is really spot on. His drama is really good, but his comedy, I always loved his comedy. Excuse me. And he was nice. He just did not want to be there that day. He was having a bad day, I guess. But he gave a good audition.
How did you end up casting Meg Foster? Do you remember?
I want to say she came in red, but yeah, I think she did. I think she came in red for us. And she was just so striking. And I knew the role needed someone that, is she crazy? What is she, And so she played it really interestingly from the moment she read it. And I really liked, and everybody did, like the ethereal creepiness of her.
She was really good at that.
She's always been really good at that in everything she's done.
But you felt sorry for her. You felt a compassion for her, even without the makeup and the gauzed hands and everything else.
I want to ask about W.K. Stratton. He was in several episodes. So how did that keep happening? I'm very curious.
Well, if he was a dear friend of Don's.
Okay.
And he had been in Magnum. He had been in, oh gosh, Tales of the Monkey.
Airwolf too, right?
He was in Airwolf, yeah. So he was one of Don's favorites. So Don just, and he was good. He's a good actor. But Don had a couple of favorites that, but WK I think was at the top of that list.
Did you try to get WK back for the finale? Because you had several actors that were in the series in that final episode. Did you try to get him for that one?
I think we did, and I'm not sure why we didn't, but we were definitely trying to make it as familiar a journey for everybody that was watching. From the very first episode, WK was in the first episode with who played God? Who played God?
Oh, I know this.
Oh,
I can't think of the name, but I know it.
me too. I can see his face.
I can see his face.
Bruce
McGill.
Bruce
McGill.
McGill.
Thank you very much. It only took all
Group effort. See, we can do trivia if we play as one team.
There you go. Exactly. You know, I was sad that I couldn't get a feature film for Scott and Dean back in the day. I'm sure you guys all know that I tried and tried and tried, and then Don tried too.
Oh yeah.
And when the show came back on, you know, they kept coming to me. They said, well, why don't you get Scott to come do the show and we'll bring him home? I said, Scott's a movie star. If he's going to do a quantum leap, it should be a movie. Let's do the show with Scott and Dean. I think at the time Dean had not passed. Anyway, they wouldn't go for it. They wouldn't go for it, the video game, this animated spin-off. We had the animated spin-off in development the year we were canceled. And I got
Really?
to do like 2 CDs. Remember the CDs?
Yes.
All the music and some jackets. You could get a Quantum Leap kind of Letterman's jacket. But
The animated thing, I'm curious about that. Is there any kind of material out there that exists to see, or is that all
I had a
lost?
script. You want to know what the script was?
Yes.
Okay, so Sam leaps in. Why do I remember this so distinctly? Sam leaps in on the ledge of a building about to jump. And there are people hanging out of other windows saying, don't jump, don't jump, don't jump, come in, I'm coming in. And he's trying to get in because it's Sam, not the guy that was out there trying to jump. And he gets in and they said, look, you have got to do this. We've got the biggest deal of our lives together. You've got to finish this comic book. And he looks around and there is an artist table and pages for some story and characters that have been written. And they said, and we're locking you in here until you get it done. There's food over there. There's whatever. And they all leave. They lock him in the room and, close the door and lock him in the room. And Al comes in and he says, what on earth am I doing here? And Al says, this company is going to fall apart unless you come up with to fulfill this deal that you have with the studio. You have to finish this comic book. And he's looking there and he says, I can't draw. And I said, look, just stay in the room. We'll think of we're going to go back and ask Ziggy. We'll ask Ziggy to do a breakdown of all successful shows that were about whatever. Basically, I was saying, ask AI. That's exactly what I was doing. So I was asking Ziggy, and Ziggy was going to come up with drawings that Al could project, and he could just draw over them in a story. Ziggy was going to write the story. Meanwhile, so Scott is waiting in this room, and he puts his head down, and he falls asleep. And while he's sleeping, 2 of the characters get up, and they're animated. And one of them is him. He's now an animated character, and they pull him into the 2-dimensional script, which becomes a 3-dimensional world.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It was really a fun idea. And then Jeff Siegel, who was head of animation, loved it. He started doing artwork for it, and they pulled the plug, and we didn't get to do it. But it would have been a really fun show. Now, that's one that had to be done 9 months ahead because it was animated. It just takes that long to do it. I think I had the full story, but I don't remember what the story was in the animated world. but it was going to be animated. So I could do all the action that I couldn't do because we didn't have the money. All the action that I couldn't do on the show for real. We did a good amount of action. I take that back, but
There was a lot.
not what I was planning for. If I ever got to do the movie, there'll be big action, trust me.
I hear you. So I'm Stacie, did you want to?
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about Time Child then. And you read us a couple of excerpts at the 2009 convention, which was fun. And I know you've been thinking about it every day since then. So is there anything going on there?
Well, here's the funky thing. I gave up the rights.
Oh,
You did.
Universal owns the rights. So for me to just even write a spec script, there's no guarantee that I could get it made. And a lot of people said, this is a great, this is great. Just change it and write it, not Quantum Leap. And I went,
Right.
someday I'll get it back. I figure Warrior One and the Vision Quest will get me a power place, and finally they'll let it go. Right now it's just sitting on a shelf.
Huh. Okay.
That's a shame.
It is a shame.
I'm kind of curious if the show had not been canceled, would we have seen more of Sammy Joe's character?
Oh, that's really interesting.
Like in the future project scenes, maybe?
Well, I'm trying to think. We did the trilogy, what, year 4?
Year 5.
Year 5.
Yeah.
So she at the time was 12. It would have had to stay on. It would have had to stay on long enough for her to grow up, even though she was a genius.
Well, she was already grown up in the future, though, and working at the project.
Could have had more hardened player.
I like your thinking. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. With a grown-up version of her, I was thinking when you said to have Sammy Joe be there, I was thinking of her as a child, but you're right, she's in the future. Forgive me, I forgot I was time traveling. That would have been really fun. That would have been really fun. And the one time, remember the show Aftershock Theater where he and Al flip places?
Yeah.
And leap back.
I'm sorry?
The leap back.
The leap back. Thank you very much. And he got to go home and be with his wife. And we tried really hard to get, and we couldn't get her. She was doing James Bond. We just said her name.
Terry Hatcher again. You tried to get Terry
Hatcher
Hatcher
again. Thank you very much. Forgive me. It's been an insane good week. But Terry was doing James Bond, and her agents felt she was going to be a super movie star. So going back to do an episode as Donna was not happening. It was not happening. And that was a fun show. That was my first episode. So I really got to have fun with it. I wanted to write it as a comedy. It had, to me, the best Kiss with History that we had done because I could get politics in it. As a writer, it was a fun show to do.
Yeah. I didn't have this to ask you because that's not what we're here talking about today. But since you brought that episode up, I want to ask you something. The person that Sam leapt into in that episode, is he named after your mother?
What was his name?
What was his name? Gerald Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
That's your mother, right? That name comes from, and she was a teacher as well.
Yes, she was.
That's on your Wikipedia page, and I was like, is that real? I've never seen that factoid anywhere. Did you name that character after your mother?
Yes, I think Donna was named after my sister. Yeah, it was like a family affair, if anything. I've done that a couple of times. And then when Troyan played in Another Mother, Teresa is my grandmother,
Okay.
my father's side.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Yeah. And it's a nice way to shout out to people.
Yeah.
People like to hear their names and think that, oh my God, I'm on television.
And since you're talking about Donna, bring this back to Trilogy for a second. So we're told Sammy Jo is grown up working at the project. She does not know Sam's her dad. And we're told Sam's going to forget. He's told point blank, and I'm not sure how Ziggy knows that, but Ziggy knows that Sam's going to forget this fact. Does Donna know? Do you think, does Donna know that this woman she works with at the project is her husband's daughter?
I think that interesting. I think that I didn't think about that. Well, Donna was protecting the leap. So Donna, there's a scene that I wrote in one of the chapters where she comes, to tell you the truth, where Sammy Jo comes to talk to Donna. And for whatever reason, Donna is not on the project, but she is taking care of the leapers. So Al and she have been sequestering these leapers, and this last leaper has not leapt out. So I put a clock on that of why not? Did something happen to Sam in the future that she's got to go back to change?
That was during the trilogy, that scene that you wrote?
She's talking about the...
Oh, no. Donna was written in the very first episode.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, Star-Crossed.
Okay, yeah.
Where Sam realizes that he's leapt into a time where Donna is this young woman before she doesn't get to say goodbye to her father, before she throws up all these walls, so that when he gets to the altar and she doesn't show up, it's because she's afraid that he's going to abandon her, as her father had done when he went off to Vietnam and got killed. So that's why it became incredibly important for Scott to, or for Sam to break the rules. And again, this is a very early show, so I'm making up lore at this point as we go. And I had, very strict lore. Don was really handling the military statistics of how the program was run, all that kind of stuff. I was coming up with 5-year-olds, and animals could tell that they were not who they were, because they didn't have to see the aura that we project of ourselves. They could see through that it was, Sam, and I thought that was important stuff. And then with Donna, the rule that you couldn't change any of your own personal history. Mm-hmm. Was a rule that was really important, because, and Don and I totally agreed on that, in the sense that it would make it too personal. We would be doing, Murder, She Wrote, because it would be your cousin, your whatever. And we didn't want to go that path. It's the strange shoes that you walk in, that, the stranger's shoes that you walked in, that gave you the alien feeling of, I've got to inhabit this energy and this life, and how people perceive, not just perceive me, but how they see me, and how do I deal with that as Black, Hispanic, mentally challenged, a woman. I really wanted to push all the things that we need to be talking about right now. We need to be talking about what it feels like. I had heard the other day, and I can't think of who the actress was. A Canadian actress got snatched by ICE and disappeared for 24 hours. And she said it was a horrible, horrible experience. and no, we're not hearing that necessarily in the news, that this is just kind of random people being grabbed off the streets that are not, Latino or Iranian, or, it's going back to a really scary period in this country where there are laws that have never gotten taken off the books that can be used. And to me, Quantum Leap is needed now more than ever, because the voices of creators historically have always commented on the politics of the time, going back to the Greeks and Shakespeare. Anytime you do a story that involves the world that we live in, it gives another perspective to the story, especially if it's relatable. I think that's what I wanted to do in the Vision Quest books, and in Warrior One, it shines even brighter. Warrior One, which will be out in June. And then this, I think I'm going to do this as this is the absolute, and it is so cool. It's a giant version of this, but it's also got not just the graphic novel, it's got a field guide that walks you through the heroes, the villains, the characters, the creatures, the locations of what the world looks like in the future. And it's not a dystopian society. It's a utopian society. We got it together. We did it right. And we did one thing wrong. We put our genetics into machines, and they become sentient. And they look at our history of war and greed and bigotry and how we've treated the planet and the creatures on the planet and the air and the water. And they say, you are terrible stewards of this planet. So we have to remember our powers, because we put our genetics into animals, and their humanity is so new to them. They remember the powers that we've forgotten. Telepathy, levitation, the ability to manipulate matter, go negative, go positive. And they start to teach them back to us. So the journey of the Vision Quest books, the journey of Warrior One is, can we as humanity remember our powers and unify before the machines build an army? And now more than ever, I think there's a bit of reality to this.
Yeah.
But it's our evolution coming up, and how we can come together to be better. And it's the same kind of hope that I put in everything that I write. I wanted to put in Warrior One and say, we can do this. Again, it's not a dystopian society. It is a utopian society at risk. And we're kind of right there now. And that's a lot of it. I remember even with Quantum Leap, when I did Black on White on Fire, they wouldn't air it in the South because it was, in their minds, a black-white relationship. Even though Scott was white and she was white, the only time you saw that he was a black man was when he looked in the mirror, and it was too much for, I think, 3 or 4 states in the South. And you go, seriously, guys?
Speaking of the South, I did notice a lot of your episodes that you wrote take place in the South. Was there any particular inspiration behind this small southern town of Pottersville where Trilogy takes place?
Yeah, I did write a number of well, truthfully, Louisiana is different from any state in the country, because unlike the majority of the Eastern Seaboard, which was settled by English, the Louisiana territories were settled by the French. So there was a different kind of energy. There was a different kind of attitude about people. And at one time there was, there were racial differences, but before slavery came in and people saw they could make money off of people and not pay them, Blacks were free. And people forget that Blacks came here before Leif Erikson. And what they found out was from statuary that the Mexicans and Indians had carved, the tribes from Africa had caught currents and come over in these small boats and traded with the indigenous people of America. And so when Ponce de Leon and the Spanish came and they had slaves, the blacks didn't understand it, because the blacks had come as equals, not as a threat, not to kill, not to take away, but to trade. And they actually freed them, which tribes like the Blackfeet were literally, because they just invited them in and married them and had children with them. And, you know, these are stories that are not in our history books, but are truth. So by the time the English came, people weren't afraid of them. They should have been. People weren't afraid of them. And they said, hey, you guys aren't going to make it through winter. Let us show you what to do. And they trusted them. That's a whole other story. So, God, there's so many stories that we don't have in our history books that can be told. That's Quantum Leap could have told had we stayed on the air for 30 years. You know, like NCIS and what was the other long running show that Don had? He knows how to write. It was one of the reasons that I trusted him so immensely with this idea, in the sense that he knew how to get it done, and he made a deal with me. I will teach you how to produce. And I am grateful for that. I'm sorry that I don't have a Writers Guild credit, but everybody knows that I did.
Oh yeah.
We know.
Yes, we do.
No. But there's so many stories that we could tell. If we had had the money, we would have gone further back in time. Which one of Don's rules, which I thought was a good one, you can only go back to your birth. And that saved us, because had we gone back to Roman times, it would become a very different show. And the idea that he could only leap back within his lifetime made it what's the term I want? It made it accessible. Relatable. Thank you. Yeah. And the audience at the time, even though the young audience like yourselves, but the older audience that came to the table, came to listen to the stories, that had their stories, and the letters that we got from people that were so incredibly moving. I think it's what makes it a iconic show. Nothing like it ever before or ever again.
That's true. I mean, it did appeal to a lot of different age groups. I think I was, 15, 16, 17, and you guys were what, 12?
Yes.
Or something like that. And then
Something like that.
12. Yeah.
and you had 30 and 40-year-olds and older watching it and loving it too. So there's just a whole amazing range of diversity going on there. That was incredible. So congrats on that again. I've said it a million times, but
Thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for your love to keep it going. I was in Egypt, and they had a saying, and the saying is that we die twice in our life. We die once when our spirit leaves our body, and we die a second time when people stop saying our name. So to keep someone alive, you say their name and you tell their stories. And that's what your podcasts, your fandom has done for this show. You tell the stories, you keep it alive. There's an emotional connection to it. And I know I'm very, very grateful that you heard the hope in the show. And what I told the new writers on the new reboot, hope, history, humor, are definitely the pathways to writing a great quantum leap. So we'll be back. We just don't know when.
Oh yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Deborah, is there anything in the trilogy that you were not fully satisfied with how it turned out? Is there anything that you would have done differently if you would do it again?
Done differently. Well, now that you mention it, I would spin it off into its own series. I think you're absolutely right. That's the way to go.
All right, let's do it.
Off, and we should follow Sammy Jo and her adventures, and it's the studio heads they want it. Every studio head in town still says, give me a quantum leap. Still stay.
Huh.
But they're afraid of it because it is unique. And just like when it came back, 2 years ago, it couldn't find a home because there's nothing like it. And that's the kind of heartbreaking thing about it. I don't know, I have to think about that, because maybe it just needs like a Dick Wolf 3 hours of time travel.
Yeah. I like NBC, and there's a lot of great things about NBC and Universal, but they have hijacked this property, in my opinion, and not let anyone else use it. And I think that people like yourselves, of course, a team like you could really make it happen on something like Netflix or Prime Video or anything like that. But they're not going to let it go, and they won't use it either. So it drives us nuts.
It drives me nuts. And you know what? It's time for the motion picture.
Yes.
It definitely is time for the motion picture. And Sammy Jo needs her day.
Yes.
And Sam, if he wants to.
Exactly.
Well, you have our vote.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. All right.
Do you have anything else you want to pitch before we leave? Any other projects upcoming, stuff we should keep our eyes out for?
Well, Hidden Uganda. I went to Africa, as I said, so that's coming up next month. The Vision Quest books are, and the 5th book. Oh my God, yeah. So the 5th book in the Vision Quest, I finished it.
Okay.
Yay.
And it is now in the hands of the proofer, and then it goes to the hands of the editor. We got the cover done, hence in here. And when Warrior One comes out in June, and then we're thinking that the Vision Quest series will
I
be
still
out.
have the original copy you sent me years ago.
Oh my God.
Yes.
The very, very first.
The first one.
That's going to be worth a fortune. I'm
Heck
telling
yeah.
you. Because it has evolved in a really unique way. And we'll talk about that next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the Vision Quest and Warrior One, the game, that'll take a couple of years to get done. But Warrior One, the series, that's what I'd love all quantum leapers to come and play with me on. If you go to warrioroneworld.com, all one word, ONE, warrioroneworld.com, you can start to kind of learn. And what I think I want people to do, I have to set this up. The brand new site just came online. What's today? Friday. Came online Tuesday. What I want people to do is create their own character in the future and write about it. Because between book 1 and book 2, I did that. And people started doing fan stories. I ran out of money and the site went down. But between book 1 and book 2, everybody would read everybody else's stories, and then we would put our aura on them. Because in the future, you can read other people's auras. If you're orange, you've got an evil streak to you. If you're, blue, you're a healer, all these various things. So the whole idea was you created your own character and told us your story. And then 2 of them, one was Opal Mox, who was a biodroid. So one of these machines that had become sentient, struggling with the human emotions that he was dealing with. and the other was Obsidian. And I wrote them into book 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I got to follow those stories, and I'd love to do that again. And really, I think when we make the game, I'm going to make sure that you can create your character. You know, whether it be splicer, part human, part, you know, whatever. And then based on what your splicer characteristics are, that will define your powers. So you may be able to manipulate matter. You may be able to become invisible. You may be able to move the elements. Those are the kind of things that I know we as humans have that ability, because humans have done it in the past. And I've said this before, when Jesus Christ said, "Do as I do," change loaves of bread and water into wine and walk on water, he meant do as I do. Everybody. Everybody. So if we can evolve and make that happen, what a different world it would be. Manifesting matter.
All right. I think we're past our hour at this point. Deborah Pratt, thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I feel like we could do this for another 3 hours.
I know, we could just talk to you like
Yeah.
every day if you're available. But
Dave
When
and
these
Stacie,
come
thanks
out,
for inviting me
come
too.
back and talk about them, and we can figure out how to do a quantum leap in Warrior One and the
Sure
vision.
thing. Sounds good.
you let us know
Awesome.
anytime you want to come on for any reason. We've got a spot for you.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe. Keep the leap. Stay safe. And come play at warrior1.com, warrior1world.com.
Visit warrior1world.com for Deborah's projects. Head over to quantumleap-alsplace.com for their 25th anniversary.
25th!
And watch the Corn Productions Deep Dive TV podcast.
Right there.
Oh yeah.
And Hidden Uganda on
Yes.
PBS
I'm gonna
Yeah.
check it out for sure.
and Prime
Mm.
next month.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so
All right,
much,
thank
Deborah,
you.
for your time.
And that was our conversation with Deborah Pratt. Some good stuff there, I thought. As usual, it's always fun to talk to Deborah Pratt. Brian, what do you think about things?
About things,
About anything?
Dave? What
How
the?
our little chat went.
No, thanks for inviting me. That was a lot of fun. Anytime speaking to Deborah is always a pleasure. So
Mhm.
I appreciate the invite. That was incredible. I liked hearing about the animated series because I'd never heard that before. So that's very
Yeah.
cool.
Some good trivia for OusPlaceQuantumLeap.com for you to include.
Did you get it right? No, you still did get it right.
No. Did I
We'll keep
get it
trying.
close?
We'll keep trying.
Okay. All right.
Nobody can get anything right in our group.
Just
No.
type Alice Place in the Google.
All right. We'd like to hear from you. What'd you think of this interview? What'd you think of our conversation with Deborah Pratt? Stacie, can we reach
Like
that?
to reach out on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TV and Coupon Talk.
Brian, can we reach that?
www.quantumleap, that's alsplace.com, or just go to Google and type Quantum Leap Alice Place.
So I basically have it in reverse.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll get there. You know where we are.
All right. If you like this video and want to support the channel, the number of ways to do so, you can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join me on Blue Sky. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie and Brian from Core Productions signing off.